you need to get out of the reading self-help books mode. And I'm pretty sure you know what I mean by that, right? In this series of videos, I'll share with you what I discovered that made me much more capable and more confident, and that was the important foundation that helped me become a successful entrepreneur. This is necessary before that could happen. But I'm going to talk about this probably not in the way that you might expect. We're going to take the anti-motivational speaker approach to this. It's pretty noisy out here though, so let's head to the studio. This series of videos is for you. If you're someone who has ambitious goals and ideas, you want to accomplish things and you want to build a better life for yourself, but you generally feel like you're kind of stuck and like you're letting yourself down, like you feel like you should be capable of more, but you can't really seem to take action on that. And if you're already actively seeking to improve yourself, which I think is the case, I think that's how you got here. So let me tell you a bit of context here of why I'm talking about this in the first place, and maybe you can relate to this. Years ago, I was stuck in my crappy little apartment, and I was deeply, deeply dissatisfied with life. I was feeling totally stuck. And even though my life circumstances, like if you looked around, it wasn't that terrible, you know, it was pretty normal. A lot of my life looked pretty normal from the outside. And yet I was really deeply dissatisfied. And like my inner world was not a good place to be. I felt like a total failure, basically. I felt like I was destined to fail. And so I had zero confidence. So even though I had these ideas of wanting to become an entrepreneur, for example, I just had no sense that there was any chance that I would ever succeed at doing this. Maybe you can relate to this kind of situation. I think a clear sign of this is not wanting to get out of bed in the morning and like hitting snooze again and again because you don't really want to face the day ahead. You don't want to have to do it all over again. And then on the flip side, not wanting to go to bed at night, not wanting to go to sleep at night either, because then that means it's going to be morning again and you have to do it all over again. And feeling like just very low energy and kind of dull and drained and directionless. That's basically what my life was like about around 2007, 2008. In the beginning, I said you have to get out of reading self-help books mode. And that also relates to my own story. Like one of the things I started doing is I started looking for self-help, self-development type books. And I was reading a lot of them, but then, well, I just had other ideas in my head now, right? I had new ideas from these books in my head, but what actually changed in my life? Well, nothing. This is something I sadly see a lot. A lot of people are basically taking in all this information. They're learning stuff. They have a head full of ideas and a head full of knowledge about how to achieve their goals, about how to live a better life, about how to be more productive, whatever it is, but they don't take action. This is why I'm calling my approach here the anti-motivational speaker approach, because really everything, the more something leans towards the motivational speaker type thing, the less value I personally got out of it and the less value I think there is in it. What I discovered in my own journey is that really it all hinges on action. Anything that isn't in service of you taking action, that moves you out of the situation you want to escape and moves you towards the goals you want to achieve, is basically a waste of time. And I know that might sound controversial, but I will explain this a bit more in just a moment. One way to think about this is like if you took a step back and think not just about your own life and your own goals, like think of a huge crowd of people. And in that crowd of people, everybody has dreams and aspirations and goals and struggles and so on. And now what if you had to find out, what if you had to somehow determine who among these people is going to succeed? What does it come down to? What would you look for? Well, you would look for who is doing the thing, who is taking the action, right? What determines your life quality and what determines whether you are moving towards your goals and achieving your goals or not, it all comes down to the actions you take. It's the things you do that lead to the results you want. This is why what I'm talking about is not about like motivation or mindset or anything like that. It is about productivity. But let me clarify something. When I talk about productivity, I don't mean what I think a lot of people mean or think about when they hear productivity. Because, for example, you know, if you think about, oh, it's like inbox zero, how to manage your email inbox and answer all the emails or something. No, that's not what I mean by productivity. For me, I have a simple definition of productivity. It is taking meaningful action that moves you towards your important goals. And whatever that is, whatever the context is, that is what productivity is about. So, you know, efficiently answering loads of emails, Does that move you towards your most important goals? Probably not. It might be a requirement in your work, and it might be something that's useful because it means that you can spend more time doing more important things. But the core of productivity is not doing busy work efficiently or doing more work. The core of productivity is taking meaningful action that moves you towards your most important goals. Here's an interesting thing I discovered when I managed to get out of reading self-help books mode and started taking more focused action in my life. A lot of the things that like the motivational speakers and the self-help books were talking about and promising actually came from action. A great example of this is confidence. There is no way that you can generate real confidence. Like, you can't fool yourself into having real confidence. At the beginning of my journey, I definitely lacked confidence really severely. And you could say, well, that's a mindset issue, that's a motivation issue, that's about self-worth and self-belief and so on. And yes, that's true. Part of my like crippling lack of self-confidence was maybe childhood experiences and things like that kind of had skewed my self-image in an overly negative way. And it's true that this is an obstacle. But here's the interesting thing I found. Like, all the kind of internal work of trying to deal with this lack of confidence and maybe figuring out, oh, where does it come from and what can I do, and affirmations and all this kind of stuff, was basically doing nothing. What started making a difference is taking action. It's like taking action breeds real confidence. And very importantly, I'm talking about this is something that happens long before any kind of breakout success, long before like making millions of dollars or anything like that. This is just the act of doing the thing creates what I call a track record. It's like you have a track record to look back on. And one of the main reasons why I lacked so much confidence, one of the main reasons I felt like a failure is because, well, I didn't have any evidence to the contrary. I could look at my life and be like, well, there's nothing here. I'm not doing anything interesting. I'm not doing anything extraordinary, not accomplishing anything. I'm not moving towards my goals. So what do I have to feel confident about? And trying to fool myself into feeling better about myself, for me, that didn't work at all. But once I started taking action, once I started taking small steps towards my goals and actually doing things in the real world, I could then look back at this track record and be like, well, I'm starting to do things. Something's happening here. And that gives me more confidence. And then, yes, that extra confidence and a better mindset then leads to more action and so on. It's just like a snowball effect. But it starts with taking action. For me, the greatest value is freedom. And I think that's the thing that I suffered most from when I felt stuck and before my journey began, where it was a lack of freedom. Like, I wasn't free to not work a crappy temp job because I couldn't find another job and I needed the salary. I wasn't free to choose where I wanted to live. I wasn't free to do a lot of things that I wanted to do. So I would have loved to travel, but I couldn't afford to. I would have loved to go to a gym and take better care of my health and get in shape, but I couldn't afford a gym membership. So it's like I wasn't free to really make a lot of choices for myself. And that is, I think, a big part of what caused this sense of dissatisfaction I had. And on the other hand, all the work I've done since has led to all this freedom. This is the greatest value I have in my life. Like, I have actual freedom of I don't have to work a job that I don't want. I can do work that is meaningful to me. I have freedom of how to use my time, both my work time and my free time. And greater productivity helps me kind of compress all the work I want to do into less time. It gives me more freedom over the rest of my time. I have the freedom to live and work from wherever I want. I have the freedom to determine many, many of the circumstances of my own life. And I know I'm not alone in wanting this kind of freedom, but where I see people get stuck is on procrastination and productivity. This is why I'm talking about these topics first. This is why this is so important. And procrastination isn't just a problem of like laziness. It's not just a bad habit. Like, when we're procrastinating, we are not just wasting our time. When we're procrastinating, we are wasting our life and we are wasting our potential. And we are slowly eroding those things like our confidence, our self-image, our capability, our ability to make things happen. It is really a much bigger problem than most people realize. I see so many people stuck there. I see so many people with a head full of good ideas, but unable to take action. That's why I'm so invested in solving these problems and helping people become more productive and become more capable. It is all about being able to move towards your most important life goals. And yes, this is something that you can break down. This is something that there's kind of a science to it, right? You can break this down and become the kind of person who's incredibly good at this. In the next videos, we'll go into more detail about how exactly to do this. But since I've already talked about how important it is to take action, what can you do practically right now to implement what you learned in this video so far? Well, here's a really simple exercise you can do that's going to move you in the right direction. This is something that you best do in writing, so with a pen and paper or some note-taking app. It's very simple. Number one, write down one goal that you have and pick one of your more ambitious goals, one of your more out there goals. That is good for this exercise. So something you want to accomplish. And then write down what is one action that if you took it every day would start moving you in the direction of that goal. Let me give you an example. Let's say that I want to write a book and become a published author, which, by the way, I do eventually. And it is something that I've never done before. So it's a goal that's pretty far out there where I'm like, I don't know how to do that, right? I've never done that before. And if I think about what's involved in writing and getting a book published, well, I don't know most of the steps. And this can make a goal quite overwhelming. It can feel like, oh, I don't even know where to start and I'm never going to be able to do that and so on. So the technique we're doing right now is designed to help overcome that problem, to help overcome procrastinating, like pushing something off because we're kind of afraid of, it's like it's too big and scary, so we put it off. So the goal is become a published author, but I don't know all the steps, I don't know how to get there. But what is one action that if I took it every day would move me in that direction? Well, writing, right? I can think that if I spend 30 minutes a day writing, that would make me a better writer. And that's not the entire solution. Just writing 30 minutes a day is not going to make me a best-selling author, but it's part of the solution, and that's good enough. A thought experiment you can do to determine, well, what is a kind of action that moves me in the right direction is to flip it on its head and ask yourself, well, what would sabotage my progress towards this goal? What would most effectively hinder me from reaching this goal? So if my goal is to become an author, what would I remove? If I didn't do it, it would definitely lead to failure. And you can easily see, well, if I don't read lots of books about how to become an author, and if I don't read theory about how to write a book and so on, I could probably still end up writing a book, right? But if I don't write, that's like the one thing, if you take that away, if I do everything else, but I don't write, well, then I'm never going to be an author. That is the most effective way to sabotage my progress towards that goal. So that gives you a hint of priorities as well. And here again, when you do this exercise, you'll find that it's always action. It's always some form of action that if you took it away is the most effective sabotage. So in this way, you write down your goal, you determine what is one action that if you took it every day would move you in that direction. And I recommend that you keep this very small. Keep it as something that seems small and totally doable. It's no good to say, okay, what I need to do to become an author is I need to spend 5 hours a day writing. And then that's super intimidating. And I try it and I maybe try it for 2 days and it's just such a difficult experience. I never want to do it again. That's no good. It's much better to say, I'm going to write for like 20 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day. I can do that. That's no problem. Because again, don't get overwhelmed or scared by the distance or size of the goal. Because what we want to do here is we want to kickstart that snowball effect I talked about earlier. You start taking small steps, and that is what builds your capability. That is what also builds your confidence, right? If I keep doing this, if I keep writing every day, then, well, first of all, I'm going to notice my writing getting better. And secondly, I'm going to build that track record where I can look back and say, okay, I'm still not a published author. I'm still not close to that goal. But look, I've spent the last 100 days writing every day. My writing has gotten better. Like, how many people do that? That puts me above like 99% of people who dream of one day publishing a book. So even though I'm not there yet, I can clearly see that I've made a big difference. I've gone a big way from where most people are towards that goal. And that breeds confidence and motivation and so on, and will drive me to keep pursuing and keep taking action. For now, all you need to do is think of the goal and think of one action that would move you in the direction of that goal. Keep it small, and in the next video, we're going to go into more detail on what exactly to do. Right now, don't even feel like obliged, if I write this something, I have to do it every day from now on. Don't worry about that. Even just getting clear about how do I move myself towards this goal, even if you feel like I'm still not ready to do this, that's fine. You might find that you're compelled to, this is actually so easy, I can do this, I'm going to do this, which is great. But if that doesn't happen, don't worry about it and watch the next video. If you're not on the Ikario newsletter yet, below this video you can sign up to make sure you get notified when the next video in this series is released. Also, you can leave a comment, so let us know what you think about this first part, let us know what questions you have, and let us know what you would like to learn when it comes to how to become a better goal achiever.